Hello everybody. This time I want to tell you about a very special trip. I don't really make videos about my workshops, but this one I don't want to keep from you. I've been coming around a bit, instructed in Germany, Belgium, France or Austria, or worked on HEMA projects in Poland or the UK, even in Africa, but an invitation to China was really a special surprise for me. The local HEMA club, SHMA, invited me to Shanghai for a 3-day workshop. The requested topic should be Joachim Meyer's fencing from 1570. First day pole arms, second day the Longsword, and on the third day Dussak and Rapier. Since it is not every day that you travel to China, I took the opportunity to extend the trip to almost 2 weeks and brought along my girlfriend who was to assist me as a co-trainer. In addition, she is very familiar with the Dussak and we thought that it would be nice that she can take over this part of the lessons. So we agreed and arranged the trip to China. In the middle of July, we started in Halberd from our home base, and around lunchtime we went to the airport. Fortunately, we did not have to bring any weapon simulators with us. These were to be provided on site. Therefore, it was enough to bring our protective clothing. We wanted to avoid possible problems with the import of such equipment. On time, the plane took off to Frankfurt, where the long-range jet to Shanghai was waiting for us. The large part of this route should take a 747, a -400. I thought that was really good. Who knows how long the older models still fly? To use this opportunity again was great. Just for the background, I worked on this type of aircraft for more than 2 decades as an aircraft technician before I switched to the gaming industry. So it's nice to fly with your sweetheart. The flight from Frankfurt to Shanghai took another 11 hours. Since we waited in Frankfurt for hours for the connecting flight and it was a night flight, we actually slept almost the entire flight time. And there we were then, Shanghai. I say it right at the beginning, SHMA and its members were truly the best hosts I ever experienced. They picked us up from the airport, drove us from the hotel to the location, took us to dinner, were always available 24/7 to answer questions and really took such good care of us that it was almost uncomfortable. Thank you very much, my dear colleagues from SHMA. Okay, after we had rested a bit in the hotel, we went directly on a discovery tour. We still had a few days until the actual event, so we used every minute to discover the city for ourselves. It was not only impressively huge and full of people, but also had a very special charm. Of course, we were downtown, what else would you expect? But still, I have not seen anything like this. The only thing I didn't like was the climate. It was incredibly hot and the humidity was 100%. Since I cannot handle the heat very well anyway, the city tours were always accompanied by sweaty marches. But with the regular cooled malls, it was bearable. We visited museums or historical sites, ate in restaurants and visited parks. We never got bored. On top of that, the people we met were all extremely accommodating, friendly and open-minded. We felt very comfortable there. After we had enjoyed our impressive vacation, it was time for the workshop. It started with the staff and the facilities of SHMA. And by the way, their training hall was really a great location. Besides HEMA, Björn was also trained there. For this, the Iron Guys had their own training room. Also their arsenal of weapons and armor was enormous. But anyway, back to the scene. About 30 people came to the first workshop. We started by going through the guards, talking about basic body mechanics and moved on to striking through the cross. Then we went through thrusts and binding situations and finally tried a few plays. All day long we worked extensively with the staff, and hopefully by the end of the day I was able to give the participants a nice overview of Renaissance pole weapons.
Yes, that is good. Very nice. You hear this noise? The noise is very important. And you know it's very fast, but I guess the staff is a bit different. Yes?
On a second day, it was time for the Longsword. And you wouldn't believe it, the hall was overflowing with people. At the end, the hall was filled with over 60 participants. Some came from distant regions of China, not only from the Shanghai region. I was told that it was the biggest HEMA workshop in China ever. In fact, it was also my biggest. I may be wrong, but in Vienna and Austria there were once just over 50, I guess. And this one was supposed to last over 10 hours. And of course with breaks. But no problem, we divided the groups into two parts and, after we had shown the exercise, always let one group train and then the other and the fourth. By the way, the room was air conditioned. Again, we first went through some basic things like stance, body mechanics, hip and footwork, etc. The usual stuff. But my way. And this was the plan,
all
right?
These circles here, all these forms provide.
And 1, 1,
and 2.
2,
Nicely up.
Yes.
Upper guard. Now, when I'm the upper guard, I think about upper strikes. And that means all my muscles are prepared for what I can do very good from the stance. And not just standing there and that's basically it. No, I'm thinking about the techniques coming out from this guard. You can see what happened from this guard, right? So when I'm standing like this, I'm coming here in front to Amelie, she already knows what happens. That is good if you want to do a feint.
对方给了一个上步的斩，那对我方来讲，我就没有必要也跟一个上步，不然的话就会变成刚刚那个紧贴的距离，大家开始进行摔跤了。所以我
The real main part was the master strikes. We went through each of these strikes, looking at what situation each might be appropriate for, when to use it offensively or when and how to use it defensively, and so on. I always like to explain at this point that these strikes are not called master strikes, because you can call yourself a master when you have learned them, but because from each of these strikes came masterful pieces. And up to this point, it is actually just a quote from Meyer himself. But I like to add that I understand the whole part of fencing like a big tree. Body and footwork, timing and distance feelings are the roots. The fundament, the trunk are the basic cutting, thrusting and wrestling concepts, and the thickest branches are master strikes, which divide into corresponding technique groups and lead us to further mechanics.
Yes. Yes, and you need space. So stretch arms and then you have enough. Exactly.
This of course doesn't go into full detail in the last example, but at least gives a picture of the classification, priorities and interlinking of our art. The whole thing was then rounded off with a few secondary strikes and a special technique such as the ropes.
Like this. Okay, go in with a Krumpau, you try to hit, doesn't work, shield hau from the other side and withdraw. So you can interconnect it all together.
就跟昨天讲长杆的时候，长杆的很多技术是可以互相连接在一起的，内部通用的。这一样的道理，刚刚你也可以把曲击和撇击连在一起用。
Like this, and here, and around, and whatever. So it's all interchangeable. But now he can go through. But the turning point should be here, outside of the connection, like this. And then I can go in safely. So I go in, boom, bring it aside, and then I go in. Okay? So turn here, not on the blade.
So like turn.
Yeah. Der ballert aber auch rein. High. Yes, and now pull the knob. Yes, basically like obvious what we have done. Yeah. So we make it in one motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is a nice play. When you learn it, it's really nice. You have preparation. You have a big step. You go to the hand. You go in the Querhau, Prellhau, lower openings, and then upper openings. And learn also to close the line every time. And you open up your opponent more and more.
On the third day, Amelie took over. She led a group of about 30 participants through the Dussak part of the day. And I thought I could finally relax a bit. Played a little bit the co-trainer, no problem. Well, no way. Unfortunately, the air conditioning was down and it was brutally hot. But the people from the Haas Club were incredible. Got ice blocks and chopped them with the axes of the Buhot fighter. A lot of fun.
For him, hitting hands is kind of parrying, and it's just a better parry than the sword, because that also hurts. And you're parrying his hit by hitting his hand, and then you can go on and do further work. And you actually go from this side. Pop, pop, pop. Yeah. I go here. How?
我们这个应该
and I
叫
come
take，
this
是不是？
way.
要叫
Because
take。
then, afterwards, when you come back, I have this way. Oh, sorry. I have this way to come
他
back.
抓得
for
住
a，
他抓得
withdrawal.
住。
Thank you.
我们接下来就要 Björn 老师来教我们。
In the afternoon, I then took over again for the Rapier. This is quite tiring for the legs, especially after 2 exhausting days, because the deep stand is not everyone's thing, including me. But it was great fun for all of us and rounded off the overall concept well. I can only emphasize again and again how important it is to train all weapons in the Maya system, or at least to take a look at them. Even if we are only interested in fencing with the sword, the other disciplines teach us specifically certain aspects of fencing. The dagger goes into wrestling. Rapier tells us a lot about geometry and biting behavior. Dussak teaches us the fore and nach, and the pole is only properly guided with a lot of dynamic and a lot of physical work. In the end, the sword combines all these aspects equally like no other weapon. The king of weapons, for a good reason. My workshop wanted to convey this message to the participants, and the 3 days were ideal for this.
So she brings me up, grabs my hand, and now I'm also able to grab her hand as well. And now we are in an even situation. Okay? So, but when she goes around,
如果他往后走，
yeah, grab my hand, and then here's nothing.
他就
But
抓不
here's
到
the
了。
blade. So this is the reason why we're just going around and making the thrust from behind. Uppercut.
一个
And
斩
I catch it here. What I'm doing now is going here aside and turning my back to her, and I drop my sword to her and stab her here to the side. Yeah? Maybe she has just a rapier and I have both. Ha! And now you have a problem, right? And then maybe reverse thrust could work. Here, this, around, and then stab. Sorry. But it works. Whatever.
People, what can I say? The experience was unique, and definitely I would like to repeat this. I was finally able to get to know the Chinese fencing culture in the SHMA area, and I'm very grateful for that. And the differences were indeed noticeable. For one thing, the fencing culture is much more competitive than in Europe. Sparring was very hard, I must say, basically only with full protective gear, very focused on winning by points. Also, the exchange of knowledge between the clubs is not so common as in Germany, so I was told. Maybe it is because almost all Chinese clubs are commercial in nature, and the mutual teachings therefore fall somewhat under the table. I know this also from Germany. Here there are also smaller circles that prefer to stay among themselves, show little of themselves, tend to shield their offenses. But our art only really grows when people engage in healthy discourse, exchange ideas and learn from each other. But don't get me wrong, this sounds more one-sided than it actually is. But it is a tendency. On the other hand, the participants of my course were all motivated and talented fencers. Just like in Europe, there were those who had problems keeping up and those who could follow the material without any problems. However, I was really impressed with the practical approach that the fencers showed. No matter if in the class the Schielhau only worked rudimentarily or another different technique caused problems, the free fight potential, the ability to proceed effectively in fencing was always there. Every single one I faced in sparring was a challenge, without a doubt. Well, we are coming to the end of the video now, but I would like to get one more little thing out of my mind regarding exchange. As some of you may know, I'm active in the DDHF, the umbrella organization for historical fencing in Germany. If anyone out there comes to us in Germany, whether for study, vacation or work, and has the desire to find a HEMA club to train, contact us from the umbrella organization at info@ddhf.de. We look which club is proximity and make the contact. Let's do it just like our old fencing masters. We travel around, learn and grow with each other. In a sense, until next time.
Yeah, it's real, sure. It's weird, it's still weird, I don't know. Maybe Joachim Meyer has drunken a lot and yeah, I have an idea. We don't know. Oh, he was not drunk. That is serious business here.